Father Fabio, I've wanted to write to you for a long time. Here's the situation. I lost my oldest son, who was 30 years old, in a motorcycle accident. And since then, I haven't been living as a person anymore. I have depression, and life has lost its meaning for me. I also know that your mother lost a daughter in a very tragic accident. I would like you to help me. Please, give me an answer that can ease my anguish. I know that many other people also go through this difficulty, right? You didn't mention how long you've lived with this experience. I don't know how long ago the accident with your son happened. I'll speak from the experience I saw in my own home. The death of my sister was very tragic for all of us. It's not easy to lose. My mother, especially, lost a daughter at 29. Years old, full of life, beautiful, full of projects, with a son to raise. And suddenly, we received the news of her death, perhaps one of the most painful moments my family has had to face to this day. I remember when I found my mother. As soon as I arrived, I was living in Taraboa at the time. I traveled all day to get there, received the news in the morning, and managed to get to my mother's house that night. And I remember that I found a woman extremely distressed. Of course, it's natural for it to be like that. My mother was devastated, poor thing. But I noticed that in that woman's hands was a small object. It was a rosary, very small, which she held from the moment she heard the news of my sister's death. What I saw immediately after was a harsh suffering, really harsh. I witnessed many terrible situations involving my mother's pain. My mother had to go to Belo Horizonte soon after, where my sister lived. Her apartment was closed. After the accident, my mother had to go there, collect her things, store everything. And I realized that watching my mother face all that, I discovered something. No one dies all at once. The accident happens one day, and for a long time, we have to give ourselves this news. I saw this in myself too. And what did I experience from this pain? That when we lose someone in such a tragic way, we need to give ourselves this news every day. Because interestingly, it's not that it hurts more or less, it's that we are less prepared, right? If you follow a person's illness, you follow that process. There comes a time when the family almost wishes that person would stop suffering. But not in this case. When someone is abruptly taken from our lives, like your son was, like my sister was, like so many other stories, like what has happened in so many families where children were drastically taken from their homes, from their families, because of accidents died and suddenly are no longer there, we find that we will organize the mourning every day. There's no way around it. Every day I woke up and felt the impact of that terrible news. Sometimes I woke up in the middle of the night. I cried a lot because my sister left a huge void in my life. Time changes the way we feel it. But it was very hard, very hard. And I remember that my mother went through the same process. She talked about the struggle it was for her to face that house without my sister's presence, to live through that painful process of going to the apartment where she lived, organizing her things, arranging everything so that life could go on. In my mother's organization of her grief, God was present the whole time. You know, I think that scene I saw on the day of my sister's death, my mother holding that rosary, a symbol of faith, was, for me, like seeing the result of faith in a person's life. Not once did I see my mother blaspheming. Not once did I see my mother rebelling against God, even though I think that is also natural. If you have blasphemed, if you are angry with God, don't blame yourself for it. I think this process is natural, right? I repeat, every day we give ourselves the news. Every day you need to tell yourself, my son is dead. And the reactions will be different because the human heart is dynamic. We cannot expect the same response. One day you will be a little angrier. One day you will be calmer. One day you will be, lighter. One day it will be heavier. What we cannot lose sight of is that from the moment the loss happens, it is our responsibility with those who remain to guide our. We continue tomorrow in the next video. Complete conference links in the description.